Happy Friday! Happy Friday, everyone. Happy Friday. Happy Friday. Got I'm very happy. I'm sure many of you are that it's the weekend's coming up. Um, yeah, happy Friday. Hello, London. Hello, London. Okay, let me see who all we got here. We got Doug on the left. Doug on the left, first in the room. Hello, Doug on the left. Welcome back, Doug on the left. Macy, of course. Macy, do you mind me calling you Macy? I know you changed your name, but I'll just call you Macy. I just won't use the other part of it. Who else we got here? Alan, hello, Alan. Alan says Trump on Fox News this morning. The radical right aren't the problem. The radical left are the problem. I call that projection, right? Obviously, the radical right is a big problem, very big problem, the big problem. Yeah, okay. Alyssa, Alan, how shocking, right? Hello, Alyssa, by the way. Welcome, Alyssa, coming back here. Sir Bartholomew, hello, Sir Bartholomew. Glad to see you here, Sir Bartholomew. By the way, Sir Bartholomew, I know you're into fantasy. I have a new thing on the wall behind me that's kind of like a sword. Or like it's a not a sword. Well, there's the sword, but there's like it's a fantasy image. You probably can't see it very well. Perhaps I'll show you closer a bit later here. London's here. Hello, London. Lee Lane. Hello, Lee Lane. Thank you, Lee Lane, for sending the buy me a coffee. You're my first buy me a coffee purchase, so thank you. We also got anyone else here? Did I miss anyone? Doesn't look like it. All right, folks. Hello, hello, hello. We have a few things to talk about. We will talk at the moment. So to begin with, I'm not going to talk about the what's going on with the Charlie Kirk stuff right away. After I do my first little lesson, I will a little bit. For those who are on the morning stream, they have finally caught the person who was responsible for the assassination of Charlie Kirk. But up until then, I'm going to do my normal little beginning lesson here. Plus, I think everyone needs a little bit of a break, in my opinion. So that's one of the reasons we're doing that. Okay. London, I guess it's not fully confirmed, right? Hello, is she Jan Real? Yeah. I get it, smart politics. I know, right? um, um, okay. Let me notice your Maidenless Morris. Okay. So guys, all right. So what we're gonna do is I have a London World, the London World. It is actually fully confirmed. They came out and they said, I don't know if he would have issued Jan Real, but maybe, who knows? I don't think he would have, but what's sexuality flag? That is the Ukrainian flag. That is the Ukrainian flag. By the way, London, if you don't mind, I'm going to give you admin privileges over on Twitch. Let me do that real fast, folks, for a number of reasons. Let me see here if I can figure out how to do it real fast. So, folks, we're going to talk first about we're going to first talk about see here. We're going to first talk about something called the dancing plague. I think that's you. You're the London World, right? Let me see here. Yeah, it looks like it, Alyssa. That's why I'm trying to give. If London, are you still here? London World. I'm just going to give you some admin privileges. Thank you, London. Okay, so I'll do that real fast. So that we can nip some of this in the bud. Okay, there we go. London World moderator. Boop. Okay, save. There, done. I believe that did it. Let me know if it didn't. I just want to make sure. If so we don't get issues. Okay, so folks, we're going to talk about some history as always. Right, we got to do that. Okay. Aha, London coming in as our autocratic ruler. Okay, so all right. So let's get into it. We are going to talk about a very interesting historical thing that happened that is still completely not understood to this day. It is debated amongst historians. No one really knows. It's unlikely we'll ever know. Okay, to be honest with you. Um, but we will. So let's get into that. First, a little some housekeeping things here, folks. Um, we at the top of the page, there's a pinned message in there. You can find a link to our Discord if you want to join our Discord. We have a great Discord community there. Also, if you want to support me, you can donate at Buy Me a Coffee. I put the link there. We have if we get 5 super chats of $2 or more, or just get $10, I'll put on the Jester hat, and that includes things that are sent to the Buy Me a Coffee. Okay, so that's what we'll do. And please like the stream if you haven't already, so we can I can get more people in here. Okay. All right. So let's begin with our first little talk here about a very, very thank you, Oz. Okay. Autopen Government Patriot Act them London. Meowzord, I love it. Welcome, Meowzord, by the way. We got a lot of good folks here. We got let me see here. Forgive me, folks. I'm trying to get some stuff moved around so I can be sure. Yeah, yep. Enforce the law there, London. Okay. All right. Okay, guys. So this is what we're gonna do. Yeah, this is great. I love it. Hey, we're getting attention. That's a good sign, right? So, okay. Let me. So what we're gonna do is, we're gonna talk about something called. That's okay, London World. That's okay. We will. What we're gonna do is. Actually, you know what's funny is that copy pasta thing looks a lot like the image on my back wall, which I appreciate, the two police officers kissing. But anyway, okay. So let's start. What we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about something called the dancing plague. All right, I'm gonna pull it up. Oh, look at that! You can even see it. It's nice and beautiful. Look at that! Isn't that gorgeous? Look at that! Those two men kissing. How cute! Love is in the air. Ba-na-na-na. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we are going to talk about the dancing plague, and this is a very, very bizarre historical event. Okay, like I said, historians still debate it quite a lot. Um, and thank you, Alyssa, for the 5. Uh, Alyssa, how nice of you giving all those gifted memberships. Thank you very much. Okay. As a matter of fact, Alyssa, because you did that, I'll just put on the Jester hat immediately. Thank you, Alyssa. Alyssa. So Alyssa just gave Luke, Alan, Mithril, Henry, and Prometheus all gifted memberships. Thank you for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put on the Jester hat. Okay. Rise up, little ones. Hey, yesterday the proles were getting some class consciousness. We gotta put that down. Okay. Uh, all right. There we go. There we go. You've made it to the 1%, Alan. Okay. Great. You picked yourself up by your bootstraps. You did some hard work and you finally rose to the top. Okay. All right. Uh, all right. So, guys, I'm a class trader now. Let's go. Okay. Exactly. Okay, guys. So, thank you so much, Alyssa. So, I put on the Jester hat. Now, for the super chat, if we get to 5, I will put on the collar. Okay. Um, Oh, Luke, you're gonna see. You're gonna see, okay? We don't really know. We still don't really know what caused this, all right? Folks, you know I'm a historian, so the reason we're talking about this is it's very interesting to look at how history, the impact of how difficult it is to interpret historical events, okay? And this is true in a lot of history, especially in pre-modern history. Um, so I'm hoping this will kind of give you guys insight in the complications of doing history and what it sort of means for everything we know about history, let alone the pre-modern era. Um, okay. So let's get into it, all right? And again, message as much as you want. I will pause intermittently so I can read the chats. Okay, so this is the story, all right? And I know some of these slides just have a bunch of um, Trump failed. Well, yeah, Winston. Okay, gonna love Winston Churchill. Okay, anyway, so all right, here's the story. Let me begin our story here. So it's July. I want you to imagine it's July. One of the reasons I'm doing this now is because this went from July to September. This incident. And it happened in. I should go back a slide here. It happened in Strasbourg, in 1518. Okay, and went from July through September. Strasbourg was in the Holy Roman Empire at the time, part of modern day France. At the time, it was sort of more considered German. It's complicated, but regardless, it was the Holy Roman Empire in Europe. Okay, so in Strasbourg. Okay, this is what happened. So I want you to imagine it's July. The sun is shining. It's very hot. Okay, it's very hot in Strasbourg, the city in the Holy Roman Empire, which by the way was not really holy, was not Roman, and was barely um okay. Hello, Moose Dublin. Hello. Okay. All right. So okay. So it's July. The sun is scorching. The streets are narrow, and the city of Strasbourg, part of the Holy Roman Empire, is bustling with life. Okay. Suddenly, um, uh, maybe I may added an E to the death, so that's probably what it is. Okay. Anyway, um, in the middle of a crowded marketplace, a woman came out. Okay. So duh, Trump failed. Okay. But you can imagine, though, Winston Churchill was kind of that way too. Um, um, It may have dug on the left. I'm not too sure about that. It's happened in many cases. There's been multiple incidents of this, okay? So this woman comes out of her house. We're not quite sure what her name was. There are some people that say she was Frau, I can't remember her name, Frau something, but we don't know. Okay. Kind of, toy, 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 hey! Oh, no, I'm sorry, toy, toy, toy. I did spell, um deaths wrong, that's for sure. I think I added an extra E to it. Okay. So, she came out into the middle of a crowded marketplace of cobblestone, okay, and she started dancing. She started dancing, a good feedback there, Moose Dublin, okay. She started, dancing, and, oh, is that so, London? Very lovely, okay. She started dancing, and she didn't stop, okay? She just started dancing wildly, and once in a while, she would kinda cry out in pain, um, and people started gathering around and gawking at her, um, and eventually, she literally, collapsed, fell asleep, woke up again, and then started dancing again the next morning, alright? Ooh, Alyssa, you're on the right track there, okay? Within a few days, a bunch of more people started joining in. Okay. So a bunch of folks started coming out and also started dancing with her. It started out as, hello, Mithril. It started out as dozens. Eventually, it became hundreds of people dancing without stopping. Okay. It did. London, I think it did. Okay. Okay. Um, Men, women, and even children started doing it. Okay. So you can imagine it's very hot outside. And suddenly, after this one woman starts dancing, tons of people are dancing. Okay. All right. And, dozens and hundred men, women, children, they're dancing in the streets. They even were dancing in their homes and courtyards. They were dancing everywhere, okay? Not for joy, all right? But it seemed like they were almost compelled by some sort of invisible force, and a lot of them were expressing pain and, agitation, like they were afflicted by something, 'kay? Um, they actually danced so much that a lot of their feet began to bleed, 'kay? Their feet started bleeding. Some of them, their feet started swelling up. It started bruising, blood. Um, they also got very, very hot. Their temperatures rose. So they were sweating a whole bunch. And eventually, some of them begin to die. Okay. In some accounts of this, and we'll talk more about it's just complicated, but we'll talk more about this later. It got to the point where there were about 15 people dying of dancing a day. Okay. Literally just dancing until they died. Okay. And yeah. And the thought is that some of the accounts of the time say that this resulted in the death of about 400 people. People just dying of the dance of what was called the dancing plague. London, you're stealing my thunder, but you're right. Okay. So I don't mean that in a bad way, London. Okay. Yep. Oh, 100%. The Tanganyika laughter epidemic, Doug. Exactly. Okay. It's a very similar sort of thing. Okay. Here are some images from the time. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to briefly make the chat invisible on the screen so you guys can see the images here. Okay. Here are some images from the time. You can see here on the left. This is I don't know why it's kind of cut off there, but this is an image of this event. Okay, all these people dancing uncontrollably and also yelling out in pain as they're doing it. Okay. And a bunch of people were trying to keep them standing up and things like that, helping them around because they couldn't seem to be able to control their dancing to the point where they were, dying, apparently. Okay. Um, you're right, Louise. Okay. Mass hysteria is a recognized thing. If there was a different name for it, though, hysteria has been unfortunate connotations. You're right, Mithril. And folks, you're going to see here, I know a lot of people are mentioning mass hysteria. We don't know if this was mass hysteria. It may have been a combination of things. It is debated. For the folks who just came in here, if I get 5 super chats of $2 or more, and that includes donations on Buy Me a Coffee, I will put on the collar. We already got the hat. And we're talking about the dancing plague, which is a very interesting historical event, mainly because it is such a mystery and is massively debated amongst historians about what caused it. Okay. Um, so these are I think these images are kind of disturbing. Like they show how these, especially these two women here, are very much in distress. Okay. All right. So there were some pretty quick reactions to this crisis, so-called crisis here. Okay. The local city council consulted. This is now, folks. This was pre-modern era, so I want you to understand. The folks that were around this time had a very different view of the world than we do. Okay, they also didn't have a lot of understanding about the natural world as we do today. And so they first the city council, noticing this crisis, all these people dancing, and more every day. They consulted astrologists to see if there was something up with the stars. Shockingly, that didn't work or yield any results. Um, Alyssa, correct. Okay. Um, they eventually asked a so-called doctor, okay, a physician, which they existed at the time, but we're not talking modern day, okay, physicians. Um, they declared that this is an issue of hot blood, that the people that were dancing, because of the fact that they were sweating so much. By the way, it was July; it was very hot. Okay, they had their blood was overheating. And traditionally, at this time, there was an idea that people had 4 primary liquids in their bodies. It's called the 4 humors. And in order to deal with like hot blooded, da, 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 exactly, Macy. Okay. Um, you would need to bloodlet. So you would literally need to cut someone's arm open and let blood out to kind of rebalance the humors. Unfortunately, so they wanted to do that. Unfortunately, it's really hard to do that when your patient is dancing around and spasming erratically. Okay. So um, what they decided, okay, was that this physician ended up saying, well, we should encourage the dancing and let them get the dancing out of their systems. Okay. So what they did, um, so London World, the documents are unclear. The original documents are unclear in London. As you're getting into your history classes, I'm sure you know this already, right? History is very complicated. Some of the documents seem to indicate that yes, they were in trances, that they were incoherently maddened. Others say that they were not, or don't talk about that. Okay. Um, But you'll see that some of the people dancing may not have been being afflicted. We'll get to it, okay? So what they do is, so they basically decided, okay, we need to let these people dance it out, and we even need to encourage the dancing because if we do that, then they'll get the dancing out of their systems. We can let their blood out, okay? Um, so the city council actually started to build dance halls. They started opening up guild halls, and they hired musicians. If this sounds insane, yeah, you can imagine being around back then, it would've kinda looked crazy, okay? So they got musicians to come in, they opened up dance halls, they tried to move all the so-called dancers in there, and they hired musicians to sing, to play the music. Unfortunately, um, this caused several problems. One, as the musicians started to play, a lot of the people began to dance faster, which then resulted in them, dying quicker, okay? That's what the documents say at least. Uh, and or and a lot of other people started to join in um uh that were not part of that weren't a part of the original affliction, just because it was like a giant dance party, okay? And you're right, Mithril, yeah, things like this happen even today. Um, but of course, pre-modern era, we tend to, yes, the originally afflicted. We don't we tend to be more judgmental of people back at this time, okay? Um, and so they tried their best with this stuff. I mean, and I know I sound like I'm kind of making this from my perspective, right? It would have been kind of shocking and in a dark, humorous sort of way to see this happening. But you have to understand, right? This was the best that people at the time knew. Okay, like what do we do? Like it won't stop. Um, okay, so eventually, as you can see, these are all images, by the way, of this. Uh, Again, the plague started spreading, okay, the dancing plague. Many more people joined in the dance after the music was added, and many people began to dance out of fear that this was some sort of divine punishment. So a lot of folks started thinking this must be a punishment of God for the sins of Strasbourg, and that we need to dance as a sort of um, repentance for whatever sins we're being judged for. Okay. Uh, the city ultimately ended up concluding this too. So they're like, okay, this is a curse brought upon by the city's sins. So they used the power of the state essentially to shut down all the brothels. They shut down all the gambling institutions, thinking that these things might be causing this curse. Okay, and then they also forcibly removed all the sex workers in the city. They also banned a lot of people who were kind of outcasts, thinking that this might be bringing on this dancing plague. All right. And eventually that didn't work. So what they did was they banned music and dancing. Okay. They literally set a law that said you can't dance publicly. You actually can't even dance privately. And they banned instruments. The instruments that they were most worried about were drums and tambourines because they thought that these were the ones most likely to cause this dancing, I guess, plague, as they called it. Okay. They did, however, still allow string instruments only about um but only you could only use the string instruments though at weddings and things like that. Everything else was banned. Okay. Of course, that didn't really stop things because people were still dancing. And they started charging people 30 shillings if they were caught dancing, even if they couldn't stop. Um, the city also thinking that they could kind of bribe the saints, for those who are Christian here, bribe the saints. Um, they purchased, built, and sent a giant candle to the local cathedral, thinking that they could kind of bribe the saints into forgiving the town to make this stop. Okay, yeah, always hating on the percussion, Doug. Absolutely. All right. Eventually, the plague ended. Now, did they just charge a person a single time or every time they saw them dancing? How did that work? So, London, from what I've read in the documents, at first they charged everyone once. After that stopped, they then kind of only enforced it if people were dancing in the streets. If they went into like a guild hall or something, they didn't. They stopped enforcing it because they just couldn't enforce it. But they did. If you were caught dancing outside, they would charge you 30 shillings. I don't know what the extra punishment would be if you continue doing it. I'm guessing you'd probably get more of a. I'm not sure. Okay. All right. So the plague ended up ending, and so this is where this gets kind of odd, right? Those who danced were then ordered to go to the shrine, because remember, they now thought this was a religious affliction. Were ordered to go to the shrine of Saint Vitius. You're right, London World. Nowadays, they would just expel all the communists and socialists. Okay, Saint Vitus, because Saint Vitus is sort of a was thought to have been a saint who punished sinners by making them dance uncontrollably. So they went to the shrine of Saint Vitus, and they had all the dancers wear these red shoes that were sprinkled with holy water and painted crosses on the tops and the soles of them. And they also made them hold these small crosses in their hands, and they had incense, and they did Latin incantations. Uh, if yeah, you're right. Wait. Okay. They and they kind of did this ritual where they sent people. Correct, Mithril, 100%. This is where the phrase Saint Vitus's dance comes from. Okay. Uh, and by September, the dancing ended. people would stop dancing. And a lot of folks at the time attributed this success to the intercession of Saint Vitus after this ritual. Now, like I said, by the end of it, about 400 people had died. Now, again, I'm going to complicate all of this in a bit here. Um, okay, so that bout of the dancing plague uh, was only one bout. Okay, there were other outbreaks of this. Okay, there were outbreaks that occurred during the 13th century as well. There was one in 1237 in which a large group of children started dancing about 12 miles from Erfurt, excuse me, to Arnstadt, which was around 12 miles, and they were jumping and dancing the whole way. None of them, as far as we know, none of them died. Okay. Oh, London World, you're getting somewhere. Okay. And by the way, that incident of the dancing plague actually inspired the story of the Pied Piper. For those who are aware of the story of the Pied Piper, the guy who didn't get paid by a town for helping get rid of the rats, and so he lured the children outside the town and made them all disappear. That story is inspired by that event in 1237 when all those children danced from one city to another. One of the biggest outbreaks of this dancing plague actually occurred in Aachen, and then it spread to other places such as Cologne, Flanders, Franconia, Hanau, Metz, Strasbourg, which we talked about, Tonneren, Utrecht, and regions and countries such as Italy and the Duchy of Limburg. It started spreading all over the place at that time. Yeah. Oh, you don't know the Pied Piper? Listen, that's fair. It's an old fairy tale, an old legend story. Okay. Further episodes also occurred in 1375 and 1376. It might be Macy, okay? And there were incidents in France, Germany, and the Netherlands. And in 1381, there was an outbreak in Augsburg. So again, folks, the Strasbourg incident is the one I'm kind of using as a highlight here, but this happened elsewhere. The documents aren't great about it, but this did happen elsewhere, the dancing plague, okay? So here's my question. WTF? WTF? What the hell was happening, okay? Why were people dancing to death in Strasbourg? And why were there all these outbreaks of this so-called dancing plague? All right. Seems kind of bizarre. Yeah, correct. I totally agree, London. Okay. So let me get into some details here. Now, there are theories that historians do not know, okay? Flat out, they don't know. There are different theories, and oftentimes historians get into pretty vicious debates about this, okay? So let's go to some of the theories. Well, first of all, let me tell you something else. So I'm going to complicate this a little bit, all right? So historians, when they try to analyze what's happening in the past, they use documents, right? Documents that talk about what happened in the past, okay? The problem with this event is that this was the pre-modern era. The documents aren't as great as they would be in the modern era. And a lot of the original sources on the plague on the dancing plague no longer exist, okay? So a lot of the sources that historians use on this event were often written several years after the event happened. So that automatically causes an issue, right? None, as far as we know, none to very few, if not any, of the original sources say anything about anyone dying. Okay, it was only later sources that about a few years afterwards that say that people died. It is unclear if people actually did die. A lot of historians would say there probably were deaths. Well, we're not sure. Okay, regardless, those sources even those sources that came afterwards weren't necessarily also very accurate. So we don't really know. Okay, so there are some theories here, though. All right. Um, Yep, the rats, the size of cats. Yep, you're right, Mithril. I think it's more popular in Europe, the Pied Piper legend. But yeah, okay. So the first theory here that a lot of historians sort of promoted was ergot poisoning. Okay, ergot is a fungus, and what happens is if you're in a really damp if you're in a very damp environment, rye, so rye grain, used in rye bread, okay, can become if it's in too damp of an environment, this fungus called ergot can start growing on it, and it's toxic, right? If you consume ergot, it can cause things like convulsions, psychosis, irrational anger. Okay. As a matter of fact, there's one theory that one of the reasons the French Revolution got so violent was because people had been eating more rye bread because of there wasn't access to higher quality bread. Um, yeah. Okay. So there are other times in history where ergot poisoning has been attributed to some very odd occurrences. And it should be noticed that so some historians link ergot poisoning to late medieval and Renaissance dance periods in terms of like these dancing plagues. Okay. Um, yeah, you're right, Mithril. You're right. Okay. So here's the thing, though. Okay, and also at the time in Strasbourg, something else I didn't tell you is that when this broke out in Strasbourg, there were a lot of problems going on. People were already in a famine. There wasn't much food around. There had been lots of wars occurring. People were already distressed. Food was scarce. And it may be that they weren't storing their rye properly, and so it may very well been that a lot of folks started having this hysteria or this not hysteria, this psychosis and convulsions because of ergot poisoning. Um, and it also been a very wet season in Strasbourg. Okay, I love it, Mithril. Okay, so maybe they all had ergot poisoning. Now, there's problems with this, which we're going to talk about. Okay. Uh, There's a second theory here, all right, that historians have. Stress-induced mass hysteria. Um, uh, and I believe Alyssa actually quoted what it's actually called now. Correct, Macy, our resident biologist here. Yes, okay. Mold and decomposition is really common in agriculture. Absolutely. Um, uh, I'm sure, Robert. Okay. So yeah, this could happen. The second theory here is that John Waller, especially, who's a well-known historian on this topic, he speculates that the dancing was stress-induced psychosis on a mass level. As I mentioned, folks, so in the region where people were dancing, there was a ton of starvation and disease going around. The Black Plague had just gone through there. Um, and the inhabitants tended to be pretty superstitious. I mean, this was the Middle Ages, right? I mean, so it may have been everyone was super stressed, and was sort of a massive um, uh, act of psychosis, stress-induced mass hysteria, and psychosis. Okay, where everyone started panicking because of what they were seeing. They were already stressed, and they all started following along with each other. Um, and since that there were 7 other cases of dancing plague. Um, in the region, that might also disprove the ergot theory because there were multiple places that did not have the same environments or the same famine as Strasbourg that had similar outbreaks of the dancing. Okay. So that again, that's why there's some issues with the ergot theory. All right. Um, and the fact that it ended with a religious ceremony makes this explanation more likely, right? A lot of the folks stopped dancing after the religious ceremony. So it's possible that that was sort of a suggestive, almost hypnosis that kind of got people out of it. At the same time, if people did die, it's possible that by the end, the only people left dancing were those who were just dancing to follow along, and that the people who were actually afflicted had died. So again, also not a perfect explanation. All right. Lastly, this is one I like this explanation. It's not I don't believe this explanation any more than I do the other ones because we don't know, but I just think this is an interesting one based off what I've studied, my historical expertise and stuff, is that this was an act of mass resistance to oppression. Okay. So some sources claim that the revelers, so the people that were dancing, actually were also engaging in um uh right, Mithril, absolutely, mechanical reductionism, right? Um Some sources claim the revelers were also engaging in sexual activity as they were dancing, that there was a lot of sex going on as they were dancing, a lot of partaking in other things that at the time would have been considered immoral. Um, and some of the images from the time actually show people engaging in sexual acts amongst the revelers. So, and it should be noted that this all started with a woman who came out and started dancing. And some sources claim that she started to dance after her husband demanded that she complete a chore. So it may have started as a woman basically resisting her husband's oppression and going out and starting to dance. Okay. We don't know for sure. And also, it should be noted, folks, that at the time, a lot of sources blamed women for everything. Okay. Well, it was just this woman who didn't want to listen to her husband and whatever. Okay. No, she must be a witch. Okay. So, again, those are also flaws in the sources and this explanation. And again, this would also explain why it was solved by a religious ceremony, because it's very possible that a lot of these people were doing a mass act of resistance, and the religious ceremony kind of gave them a reason to stop doing it. So those are the three sort of main theories. And also, you should remember at this time, society was pretty strict, and not in all ways, but they were very religious society. A lot of things were considered immoral. Women were, not necessarily well treated. Um, and this may have been sort of a massive act of resistance during stressful times. Okay. Which that also raises other questions. That means some people may have been willing to dance until they died, if in fact people did die. Again, we're not sure. Um, it's complicated, right? And it's also possible, folks, that people died because of the heat. Because, like I said, this was July to September, and it was very hot. Yes, we will do a poll. So that's a great idea. And also, I'm going to start a poll here. I'm going to see what people think. Um, I'm gonna do a poll seeing what people think, what you all think might be the answer was, okay? So, um, yes, Luke, yes, but not nearly as much, not nearly as much. As far as I know, Luke, I'd have to look into it a bit more. I think there were a few other instances of this. Um, what was the cause of the dancing plague? Okay. I'm gonna add some options here. So the first one, ergot poisoning. Okay, second one, mass hysteria. And thirdly, Uh, resistance. Okay. Um, okay. Oh, so here we go, folks. I'm going to start the poll. Tell me what you all think. Meowzord. So that's a very good question. Uh, that's a good question. Meowzord asks, do we know if it was some sort of unified dance move or just movement? So Meowzord, that is a good question. So from the documents I've looked at, and these are translated documents, I am not a medieval historian. To begin with, they were uncoordinated random movements, often explained as sort of convulsive. Okay. But as time went on, there were more people coming in, and there were some more coordinated dancing. There was some more coordinated dancing going on, but generally it appeared to be uncoordinated. Um, at least it began definitely uncoordinated. So if we were to, okay, so we got 71% of people say mass hysteria. Okay, excellent. Um, those are great. And folks, I will say it's possible it was a combination of things, right? Maybe I should have put that as an option. Maybe going back down to 50%. 50% of people saying it was mass hysteria now. I want to see what other people are saying. You're right, Meowzord. This is why it's a historian. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's been lots of first ever flash mob of Victoria. Okay. There are lots of options here, and the historians still debate it. Okay, we got 40% who say ergot poisoning. 60%, 55, 60%, or oh, it keeps changing. I'll wait for a second. Correct, Luke. That is one theory I think that would probably be my favorite theory, Luke. But again, I have no monopoly on truth about this. I am also not a medieval historian. I would think it may have started as ergot poisoning, and then it may have ended up kind of becoming a mass hysteria, or something like that. The resistance thing I don't buy, but I just thought it was an interesting theory. Okay, so let's see here. So right now we got 54% at mass hysteria. So most people think mass hysteria, 0% resistance. Excuse me, and then ergot poisoning, 46%. Okay, so I guess we all think generally that it is mass hysteria. And again, I will say, the most respected historian on this is the man I quoted previously, or I talked about previously, and his theory is that it was mass hysteria. So you all kind of are right, in line with one of the more respected historians on this topic. But again, even he acknowledges that this is a guess and they can't be fully sure. Okay, so in the end, folks, we might not ever know. Literally, we might never figure out what this stuff was really about, because the documents aren't great. And unless someone finds a trove of documents from the time, we won't really know. And the reason I'm talking about this is because history is very complex and often very hard to reconstruct. You also have to understand that people um, at different times, um, have different cultural norms and different views about things happening. So, at this time, like a lot of folks believed it was demonic possession. And it was mixed in with all these cultural norms about what is appropriate to do in public. And it's very um it's very, yeah, it's complicated, right? So history is often not perfect, and obviously, okay. Um, yeah, human minds are very strange, Alyssa. Absolutely. Okay. Meowzord. Yeah. Same, Luke. Egypt, ergot destabilizes people's psyches. Then more and more people become detached from their civilized selves. All the plague. You're just like, what is life? Yeah. Yep. Extreme Overton window shift. Right. Okay. And folks, not to mention all the fear at the time, the fear that this might be a religious punishment. Do we have other cases like this suggesting mass hysteria? Yes, Toya, Toya, Toya. There was something, I think Mithril mentioned it earlier. Uh, what is it called? Not Zimbabwe. There was an incident of mass hysterical laughter in Africa, um, where there were a bunch of people. Where was this? Where did this happen? Was it Zimbabwe? I can't quite remember. Where there was an outbreak of people laughing hysterically and uncontrollably for an extended period of time, and it spread like a plague. And it is now thought that that was an act that was mass hysteria. We don't know. I mean, we do know more about that. Or was it Tanzania? I can't remember where it was. So there have been other things. There also are modern day cases of mass hysteria. I can give you one example would be the Satanic Panic, where a lot of people started claiming that they were possessed and things like that. But yeah, things like that mass hysteria do happen. Um, so yeah, yep, 1237 correctly. Thank you, Mithril. Yeah, the hysterical laughter of Tanzania was another incident where this happened. As a matter of fact, let me look it up, folks, real fast. Let me see if I can find something to show you about it. Um, all right, mass hysteria. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tanganyika. Yeah, so the Tanganyika laughter epidemic. This happened in 1962. Was an outbreak of mass hysteria or mass psychogenetic illness, which is what Melissa reminded us it's called, rumored to have occurred near the village of Kashasha on the western coast of Lake Victoria in Tanganyika. Um, Yeah, so the laughter epidemic began in 1962 at a mission-run boarding school for girls. It started with 3 girls and spread throughout the school, affecting 95 of the 159 pupils. Um, Symptoms lasted a few hours to 16 days, averaging around 7 days. But the teaching staff were unaffected. Um, it also spread to Nishamba, a village 55 miles west of Bukoba, where several of the girls lived. Okay. Um, about 1,000 people were affected. Um, Apparently, it was very painful for the folks. Um, so this is very possible, and that was very possible. Another incident that was definitely an incident of mass hysteria. Okay. Also, a high school in Leroy, New York. Okay, so it's very possible this was an act of mass hysteria, and it should point out. I should also point out. Okay, it looks like most people are siding with the mass hysteria hypothesis here. You're right. The embassies thing could have also been where they people were claiming that they were being attacked by audio weapons. Yes, okay. Um, there have been other cases of this as well. So yeah, my mass illness like that is can happen. It's very possible that's what was happening in uh, you know, they were there. Okay. Kimberly, thank you. In the fall of 2011, a number of teenage girls at Leroy Junior Senior High School began to develop symptoms like tics, twitching, and garbled speech. That's very interesting, Kimberly. That sounds like it would be okay. Another theory, folks, is that the Salem witch trials were an incident of mass hysteria because there were 2 girls there who started claiming to be possessed. Now, I'm going to do a stream sometime on the Salem witch trials because I think that is something that is very there's more to it than that, but that was interesting, okay? As a conversion disorder, okay, interesting, Kimberly Jean. Doug on the left, I wonder if syphilis and ergot have interacting symptoms. They might. Um, okay. All right. So again, so history is very difficult to reconstruct. So it, I love talking about that event because it also shows you are the flaws in trying to understand things that happened in other times. We may have a lot of science and stuff now, but that does not necessarily make it easier to interpret all human behavior at all times. It got interesting, Kimberly Jean, a mass psychogenetic illness. Very interesting. Okay. All right. So okay, just a reminder, folks. I have one more little presentation here. It kind of goes along with what we were talking about. Um, that's disturbing, London. I'll take a look at that. London World says there's a 100K plus soldier standoff between Poland, Lithuania, Russia, and Belarus right now as Russia starts their Zapad military exercise. It looks kind of scary. That is scary. I'll take a look at that here in a second, London. Oh, geez. I've already seen enough in my life as a millennial. I don't need a third world war. Okay. That's so interesting, Kimberly. So you've heard of it before, then you know. Okay. So okay. Let me pause here for a second. Oh, absolutely, Mithra. Oh, don't worry, Mithra. I used to live in about 20 minutes from Salem. And I used to visit it all the time, go to the historic sites. I think it's super fascinating, the Salem witch trials. Um, yeah. Uh, all right. So, okay, guys. So, real fast. Again, if we get 5 super chats, which of $2 or more, I will put on the Jester Caller. And that also includes, you can also send me things on Buy Me a Coffee, which is pinned in a link at the top of the chat. And you could also join our Discord, which is also linked in the pinned chat. Okay. Um, all right. Or by the way, if we get $10, so if we get $10 or 5 super chats of $2 or more, I will put on the Jester Caller. Okay. All right. So I have one more. I know normally I only do one little lesson here, but this kind of isn't really related, but I just wanted to quickly talk about something, social norms real fast. This won't take very long. Fascinating, Mithril, fascinating. I don't blame you, Kimberly. Malzord, I love The Witch. It is a fantastic horror movie, and I know a lot about the Puritans and things like that. And it is actually really good historically. It makes you feel like you're in the mind of a Puritan, which I think is one of the reasons why it was so good. I highly recommend everyone watch it. The Witch, great horror movie. That kind of puts you in the mind of what it would have been like to live in colonial New England as a Puritan. Um, the fears you have and things like that. You're so true, Meowsword, so true. And I recommend everyone watch it more than once. The second time you watch it, you'll start to notice things that the people in the movie may be interpreting things incorrectly, and they kind of give hints to it in the movie, or interpreting things in a sort of mass hysteria sort of way. Let's put it that way, okay? Okay, yes, Kimberly, it does. Weapons. I need to see that one. Okay, yeah, we need a Discord movie night, Meowsword. Absolutely, okay. All right, folks, again, if we get 5 super chats, I'll put on the gesture collar. All right, so uh, let's do this, okay? Let me just briefly talk about some social norms. This will be quick, but we have people from all over the world in the chat right now, and so I want to people make comments and stuff in the chat while we're doing this, so we can compare each other's social norms because different cultures have different social norms. All right, so in anthropology and in sociology, there's this idea of social norms. Every culture has social norms that are formally or informally enforced. So what does that mean? That means norms that people are things that people are expected to do, and they're enforced either formally or informally. So an informal enforcement would be like ridicule or being viewed as strange. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Meowsword. Yeah, put your shopping cart back. That's an example of an informally enforced norm because it's not like formally enforced. There's no laws against not putting back your shopping cart, but it can be informally enforced by people putting pressure on you, giving you a look or something like that. Okay. So social norms are formally or informally enforced. So I'm going to go through now, folks. For those who know that we end up doing a quiz, okay. Next week we're going to do a quiz on Friday, like we did last week. Just keep a note, okay. I love the cart narc videos, okay. Um, yeah, Mithril making tea properly without a bloody microwave, you barbarians. Thank you, Mithril. Kimberly, thank you for the super chat. Peace to you too, Kimberly. Thank you very much. Okay. All right. So let's go through some of these things. So sanctions. This is another way. This is not necessarily a norm. This is just how norms are enforced. I just mentioned this. There are formal and informal sanctions. So that's where you punish people for breaking a norm. Okay, they can be either formal, like a law or an authority figure, or an informal sanction where, just like giving someone a dirty look or kind of thinking a person is weird or judging them in some way. So there's different sanctions, all right, formal and informal. All right, so now we get into different kinds of norms. The first kind of norm that is talked about in anthropology are called folkways. These are norms that if you do them correctly, it's the right thing to do. And if you don't do it correctly, it's considered rude or weird. Rude, weird, or kind of off. Let's hear some examples. Okay, I think one would be the shopping carts, right? There you go. Okay, so not putting your carts back is sort of a folkway, right? You need to put your shopping carts back. It is considered kind of weird. Yeah. Yes, Meowsword, absolutely, right? For example, a lot of times in the US, we're expected to walk on the right side of a street or like a sidewalk, not on the left side, right? And then, but if you're walking on the right side and someone's coming at you, you're kind of like, what are they doing? Like, get over. It's the right side, okay? Like these are, and different places are different though. Some cultures, it's you walk on the left side, okay? Um, so these are folkways. Yes, yes. There you go, Alyssa. If you don't wave on someone when they let you in on the road, yeah. Pull over and text. Yeah, don't walk and text. Although in some places, Meowsword, that's more of a that's more formally enforced, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, phone calls in public. It's considered kind of rude, right? So those are all kind of folkways. What about saying bless you after you sneeze, right? Um, I'll give you another example from a different culture here in Germany, and I found this out by mistake. Okay, a lot of times in Germany, it's considered weird if you smile too much. Like smiling too much, there's some phrases in German that's like, "Oh, you must be crazy." If you're smiling a lot, you must be a crazy person. And I am from the Midwest in America, which is all about, "Hi there, how are ya? Smile, smile, smile." And when I went to Germany, what do you think I did? I was a fool, and I was smiling at everyone, and people were looking at me weird. And a German friend of mine goes, "Stop smiling at everyone. You look like a lunatic." Okay, so like that's another social norm that is different in different places, and it's sort of informally enforced by looks you get and things like that. Uh, Yeah, you're right. Oh, Meowsword, you're right. Like hawking a loogie in public, there are places where it's okay to like fire snot out of your nose in public. It is that would be a violation of social norms in the U.S. for the most part. Um, uh, Not opening doors for others. Kimberly, correct? Okay. Japan has a lot of interesting folkways. Meowsword. It's a society kind of built on these mutual social norms. Uh, right, you're right, Marky. It's crazy that a lot of white Midwesterners are of German descent. Very interesting how they dropped it when moving over. Absolutely. Okay. Kimberly, that happens to women a lot. It's annoys me when people are like, why aren't you smiling? You need to smile more." That's sort of a sexist thing that people do, but you're right, okay? Kimberly says, "My last job in customer service, I was told I didn't smile enough and looked mean." Yeah, probably because yeah, that's ridiculous. Okay. Um, yeah, Mithril, I am the sacrificial one who always had the madman sit next to me on public transport until I got my pup anyway. She demands a seat next to me. I love it, Mithril. It's good you clear your boogies in China. It's clear, yeah, clear out the bad chi out, right? And folks, none of these norms are any better than the other ones. There's something called culture shock where we experience another culture, and because we're used to something else, we're kind of like, oh my God, what are they doing? You just got to sort of adapt, right? This it's just how the way things work. Really, Kimberly? Ugh, so I guess it was a customer service thing then, really, Kimberly. I'm sorry to hear that. Okay. Um, all right. So that those are folkways, things that are right versus rude. Okay. Um, let's go to the next page here. These are, and then the next are mores. Every society has sort of different mores. There are some that are universal. These are things that you do. If you do them, you are right. And then if you don't do them, or you do them, depending on what it is, it's wrong. It is morally wrong to do these things. Now, folks, before you tell me things, try to think about things that are not so bad that you can't do them. Okay, things that are so bad that not things that are so bad that you can't do them, things that you can do, but you will be viewed as being a bad person for doing them. Um, uh, okay, so for example, I can give you an example, lying. Lying is not something you can't do. But if you do it and you're caught, it's considered wrong. It's considered morally wrong, right? Um, what else? Anyone else have any examples of mores we got here? Yeah, not saying the Pledge of Allegiance. A lot of times that is viewed as a more. If you don't do it, it's considered wrong. Yeah, okay. That there's something wrong with you, okay? What about cheating? Cheating on a partner. It's considered morally wrong. Um, okay. Um, okay. You're right. Alan, you're right. So lying in a lot of that's one of those cultural universals. Public drinking, right, McGarry? I'm sorry, Robert. Yeah, it's oftentimes viewed as morally wrong. Now, in some places, it's enforced through law, but yeah, um, good, Luke. Good. Okay, you don't have to do it. You have freedom of speech. You don't have to do it. Okay, there are lots of different things we have as mores, and they're not the same everywhere. Okay, some places have different mores than we do. Uh, okay, so those are mores, things that are right or versus wrong. Okay. Uh, for what about, for example, sleeping around a bunch? Okay, there's another one that is oftentimes viewed as morally wrong. I don't think it is, but I mean that's my opinion. But a lot of times, our society views it. Yes, Kimberly Jean. uh, disciplining someone else's child, and that is a great example because there are cultures where that's perfectly acceptable, where the community is expected to sort of raise the child. So even if a stranger disciplines your kid, there's some cultures where that's okay, but not in our culture. A lot of times that's looked down upon. Um, yeah, okay. So those are mores. So we've talked about folkways, mores, and now we're going to get into some other stuff. Uh, oh, okay. I actually wrote this wrong, but taboos. Now, taboos are not right versus wrong. Taboos are right versus forbidden. If you do these things, they are the worst things you can do. Um, there are a couple of these that are practically universal. So murder would be an example of a taboo, right? Some other things that are kind of universally considered taboos. Cannibalism. Now, there are some cultures that engage in cannibalism, but it's almost always after a person has died. But cannibalism is typically considered a taboo. It is something you do not do. Okay. um, yeah, cannibalism is a big one. And Alan, one thing I've noticed coming from a Muslim family is that you cannot enter a Muslim household for more than 3 seconds without being offered food and drinks. Yeah, absolutely, right, Alan. That's another example there, right? Would that be a folk way, Alan? You think? Yeah, I got you. Yep, you're right. A cultural norm. Okay. I love that, by the way, Alan, about Muslim folks and a lot of Arab, also just Arabs, like Arab culture too, but also Muslims generally, but um, very welcoming, very friendly. Okay. Luke, it's against the law to drink in public here, but I have not always followed that either. Plus, most of the time, the cops here don't mess with people if you're not obnoxious about. Right? Fair, fair. Okay. Rural places, yeah. Bestiality. Okay, I know this. I probably shouldn't talk about this on stream, but that is very often considered taboo. Okay. Um, Murder. I said cannibalism. Incest. Now is oftentimes considered taboo. That's one of those cultural universals. Now, yes, cousins and things like that. It gets complicated, but there are things. Lying. Yes, Meowsord. In some cultures, yes, not in all. In our culture, it's not really a taboo to lie, but it is a more, not necessarily a taboo. Yes, stealing. 100%, Kimberly Jean, stealing. Okay. What about a word I'm not going to say out loud, but RAPE? Okay. Um, Thank you, Tiago, for the super chat. Tiago, hello. I just came from a consult with my psychologist, and I sent you a video about the dancing plague. Also, donate to the community. Thank you, Tiago. Thank you very much. If we get 3 more folks, I'll put on the gesture collar. Yeah, you're right, Meowzord. Masturbation can oftentimes be viewed as a taboo, and I know I have the wrong thing up here on the slide. It should say right versus forbidden. Okay. Right, Drusilla, right? I'm not saying here, right, that there are that any of these are necessarily immoral, as much as these are things that different cultures view as taboos. Like one taboo is like, for example, exactly, abortion is oftentimes viewed as a taboo, and again, that changes from culture to culture, right? Some cultures not so much, some cultures yes. This is all relative, right? Mithril, basically all the things politicians do. It depends on the culture. Yeah, all right. Um, in some cultures, for example, it's taboo to do blasphemy, to speak against God. Uh, it's considered something you just do not do. It depends, Meowzord. It depends. There are so some superstitions are taboos, right? Others are not. Others are folkways or like there's a folk way where like you shouldn't pick up a penny that's head side up because it's bad luck. Um, yeah, don't grift and for. Yep, don't get. Yes, yeah, exactly. Exactly, Mauser. That might be a folk way. It depends on how strongly it's viewed. Okay, yeah. You're right. Like witchcraft, tarot. Like a lot of folks view that as a taboo. Alyssa, you're right. Okay. I get it, Tiago. Me too, Tiago, right? I can't afford to not pick up the coin, okay? Always pick up the coin. Okay, so these are different in different places. Taboos, there are some universal taboos, like I said, murder, lying, stealing, cannibalism, and incest are all kind of universal taboos. Every culture sort of has some variation on that taboo. So those are taboos, and now we're going to go to the last one here. Yeah, Alan. Okay, I got to tell you, I wish Americans had that. I guess what is it called? That folk way of removing your shoes when you enter a house. Um, because a lot of Eastern Asian nations do that, and also some European nations. A lot of Americans don't take off their shoes, and a lot of people from around the world think that's weird. Um, so there's I wish we could. I wish we did. That was one of those things I wish we did do. Another thing that's kind of weird for a lot of people all over the globe, folks, when it comes to Americans, is the fact that we don't use bidets, that we just kind of use very thin toilet paper. We don't use any water. It's kind of viewed as barbaric and weird. Um, so I mean, there are some strange things that America do. Okay. Um, okay. Pictures of birds. That's interesting. I didn't know that Mithril, but that's super interesting. Again, these are very common everywhere. Okay, these are different kinds. So again, these are different in different places, right? None of them are better than any others. It's just the way we do things. Okay, and it's always one of the reasons I love anthropology is because you get to sort of open your mind to how other people view things and do things, and it's very humanizing to see how other people do things. Um, Yeah, I know, right, Alan? Yeah. Me too, Alan. I get people to take off their shoes before they enter my house. I like that sort of cultural idea, but it's not really most Americans don't follow it. Here's another thing, folks. Another I mean well, let me tell you something, okay? I don't mean to sound gross here, all right? If anyone ever knows what uh FGM is, or female genital mutilation, right? A lot of times in our society it's viewed as a taboo. Uh And I don't wanna go into it because we're on live stream, but if anyone you can look it up if you want to, but a lot of cultures practice, female genital mutilation, 'kay? We here in America, in a lot of places, like in Europe too, look down upon this, and I always thought that was kind of funny because a lot of cultures thank you, Macy, you know exactly what I'm gonna say, think that circumcision is really, really fucked up. Okay? I mean, think about it, right? From another culture's perspective, when a baby gets born, the majority of Americans immediately take a knife to its you see what I'm saying? Okay? It is so that is another example of something that is kind of common in our society that other societies think are, like, really weird, okay? But again, now, I'm not saying any of these things are right or wrong. It's just interesting how different cultures view these things differently. And when you look at it from other cultures' perspectives, it can sometimes be like, "Oh, yeah, I can see why you might think that's kind of strange," because we're used to it, right? Um, okay. So, the last category here of social norms are laws, and I'm not going to go into this much. You guys know what these are. These are social norms that are enforced by authority figures. So right versus illegal. If you do it, it's illegal, and you'll get punished for it. Um, a lot of taboos and other social norms are enforced through laws, so there's not really much to add to this apart from, um, okay, uh, so, yeah, no, Tiago, Tiago, I actually agree with you. Um, so Tiago says female genital mutilation is a real problem. Yeah, it is, but I honestly think this is my opinion, folks. I think circumcision is a problem too. I think a lot of times, by the way, in both cases, both female and male genital mutilation, which is what some people call circumcision, it is it's done without the person's permission. Sometimes it is in some cases worse with female genital mutilation for a number of reasons, but um, I don't think we should be hacking body parts off. But again, I don't want for anyone who disagrees with that. I'm not trying to. Please keep your beliefs. I'm just saying that it is funny how a lot of Americans that I've known and Europeans I known hate female genital mutilation, but then they don't see the irony in being okay with circumcision. Um, okay, so all right, so that's it. That was just a quick little presentation I wanted to do there. We talked about folkways, mores, um, taboos, and laws. Okay, in case there's any quiz questions on this. All right, okay. Let me go back to my face here, folks. Okay. All right, guys. Hello, hello. Let me see. I don't know where the chat went. It just disappeared, apparently. I guess it just kind of decided to go bye bye. Refresh the cache. Maybe that'll do it. Apparently not. Okay. Well, um, yeah. Yeah. No, you're right, Tiago. And I admit, you're right, Tiago. Female FGMs are typically more severe. Absolutely. And it requires the removal of. You know what I'm going to say, Tiago. I think you know. I do agree with you there. I don't want to go into it, but you're right. Okay. Um, yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, okay. So let me. All right. So I don't know where the multi chat went. It just disappeared on my screen here, but that's okay. So we will. Those are my two little presentations for the day. I thought you might appreciate doing two of those. We. Yeah, and I will say, folks. So. Okay. Okay. So let me do real fast, folks. I need to use the restroom real fast, so I'm going to do that. And then when I get back, okay, we will talk a little bit. We got some news items to talk about. So if you guys don't give me a second here, I'm going to take a drink first. I've been trying to drink more water, so now I'm like urinating like every 5 minutes. Okay, I swear. Oh, by the way, that's another interesting folk way that we have for the men who are in chat. Okay, for the men who are in chat. Um, do you know when you go into a urinal, like you go into a men's bathroom and there's urinals? Um, uh, there's like urinals lined up. So someone tell me, okay, for the men in chat, someone tell me what would happen. Okay, let's say there's a man who's at one of the urinals, or you're at one of the urinals, and there's all the other urinals are open, but that man comes and goes right next to you and starts urinating at the urinal right next to you. What might you think in your head? You might be like, "What is this guy doing? Why did he come to the one right next to me?" Um, okay. Exactly, and then it's like, "Oh, why is this guy next to me? This is a bit too personal." Okay? That is a folk way. Thank you, Tiago, yeah. I would stop peeing if someone enters the bath. Okay, right? Okay. And I will say, folks, this is not the same everywhere. In some places in Europe, a lot of times their urinals are open. Maybe, Drizella, hey, I mean, he could ask for my number though, right? He doesn't have to. Okay, but there are some places in Europe where a lot of their urinals are just open, sort of troughs. I don't even know what else to call it. There's no guards between them, and you just go and you pee next to each other. So it's not the same sort of. Um, there's not the same folk ways there, right? And I know in a lot of American bathrooms, like like if you're a man and you're peeing at a urinal, like you better be looking straight ahead, okay? Like that's true, Victoria. Okay, urinals, yeah, okay. So, but anyway, that's just another example, okay? Um, uh, we are shy peers, okay? So again, just another interesting example there. You're right. You're right. The troughs, Alan, and a lot of guys, it makes them uncomfortable because they're not used to that. Um, yeah, okay. Come to the Midwest, we get these old fold to the floor urinal. Yeah, you're right. I've seen those, Doug. Yeah, okay. Like there's just some very interesting cultural things that go on here. Okay, so folks, give me a second. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna go use the restroom. Okay, and then I'll come back and I'll chat more. Again, folks, if I get 3 more super chats, I'll put on the Jester caller. And you can also send me. I'm gonna check to make sure I haven't gotten any. So in case I'm making sure I'm counting correctly. You can also send me if you want me to get the full amount that you send, you can send me buy me a coffee, which is posted at the top of the page. Okay, so I'll be right back, folks. Forgive me. Biology break. We're back. We're back. We're back. All right, guys. So, let me see who we have here. I'm not sure. Do we have any people in here? And we probably, I don't know if we probably don't, because I'm not talking politics. Oh, we do have a few. Good, good, excellent. Okay. All right. So, folks, please like the stream if you haven't already. That'd be very helpful. Okay. So, move on to our next topic here. I wanted to, I just wanted to quickly, for those who weren't here this morning, we do have updates on the Charlie Kirk stuff. I don't want to talk about it too much because the details, still, we're still kind of collecting details and stuff. I'm going to look up to see if there's been any updates since we checked. For those who don't know, they have caught the suspect for the Charlie Kirk shooting. Um, okay. Okay. All right. All right. All right. Uh, See, this annoys me. I'm gonna show you something. I'll put it up on the page here. This is what annoys me about a lot of times about like mainstream news sources. Let me show you something here. Let me pull it up. So this is CNN. I will. I'm going to. Yeah, the Prost. Ich spreche Deutsch sehr gut. Um, uh, Ich liebe Deutschland. Okay, or Ich liebe Deutschland. I actually, yeah, I speak German. So, all right. So, we will. So, okay, in this article, this is from CNN. I've said before how when you read mainstream news sources, you got to be extra careful. I definitely learned that from Noam Chomsky. But let me show you here. So, if I were to zoom in a bit, you can see here on this page that. All right, this is how they describe. So we all saw that uh, the uh, the governor of Utah was did a lot of speaking for the Charlie Kirk stuff, and so this is what CNN is saying about that. And remember, folks, I was saying during the stream this morning that it's pretty obvious that the governor of Utah is making political moves by trying to be the face of this. Um, and I think this is CNN sort of buying into that, or accepting it openly. So here we go. It says here some Republicans and right-wing pundits and influencers spoke of war and their side becoming radicalized in response. President Donald Trump, who'd floated cracking down on leftists and liberal organizations he baselessly blamed for political violence, topped it off Friday morning by suggesting conservative extremists have been radicalized for legitimate reasons, while saying that radicals on the left are the problem. Okay, obviously more fear mongering and nonsense. Yeah, I heard Vale. I heard. At a time when politicians and so again, this is CNN doing the work of politicians for them. At a time when politicians and presidents usually call for calm and unity, his rhetoric was throwing fuel on the fire, which is true, and it wasn't difficult to see how that could lead to even more ugly places. Um, uh, Okay, but the tragedy in Utah also happens to have cast a spotlight on Governor Spencer Cox, who, by the way, folks, was perfectly did this on purpose. He was purposely trying to put himself in the spotlight. Okay, a Republican who has spent years calling for quite the opposite approach, a more civil and less angry version of politics. And over the last 24 hours, he seized the moment. Oh, let's worship at his feet, everyone. He seized the moment. During two news conferences last night and today, it's Cox who did most of the talking. He used that time to project a far different message than that of Trump and leading MAGA figures. At one point, he explicitly decried the tendency to point the finger at the other side, something Trump and others have repeatedly done. He said, "We can return violence with violence." We can return hate with hate. And that's the problem with political violence, Cox said. It metastasizes because we can always point the finger at the other side. And at some point, we have to find an off ramp or it's going to get much, much worse. Okay, now I appreciate that. But he is doing this for political reasons, right? And CNN is kind of buying it hook, line, and sinker. Um, and what'd you say here, Alan? He was praying it was a Muslim Arab person. He literally said, "I was praying it wasn't one of us, but it is. We aren't like yeah, that's true. You're right." So that doesn't mean he has good motives or anything, okay? But CNN kind of bought it. They love the whole, unity and stuff. Yeah, you're right, Doug, on the left. So again, this is CNN, right? A lot of liberals love CNN, but again, even they kind of will buy the politicians' line, hook, line, and sinker. They're pretty chummy with the politicians. Yeah, they don't like Donald Trump, but they are often very chummy. So thank you, Alyssa, for the buy me a coffee. Thank you very much. And Alyssa, that is enough. So I will put on the thank you, Alyssa, for that. Alyssa sent $10. Thank you very much. I will put on the Jester caller now. Thank you very much for that. Okay. No, Alyssa, let me see here. Okay. Thank you, Alyssa, for that. Let me see the note that you left. I will take a look here. Thanks to Trump's tariffs, the price of coffee is up. That is true, Alyssa. That is very true. Um, very true. Thank you, Alyssa. Okay. Thank you guys for that donation. So folks, if we get I will change the goal now. If we get 5 more, I will put on the makeup. So let me just do that real fast. Okay. So anyway, just be aware, folks, that this is be careful when reading legacy news sources. They oftentimes are very chummy with the powers to be, okay? Um, and not very critical or analytical about their actions. Oh, I got to get rid of the other one first. I'll do that first, then remove goal. Boop. Remove it, and then we'll add another one. Bear with me here, folks. All right, 5 chats. Okay, there we go. All right, so we'll go back. Let me go back now to this. All right. Okay, so yeah, I mainly drink tea, folks. I love tea. So for the English folks in chat, I love tea. Okay, but yeah, I also love coffee. Okay. So, where's my face? There it is. I'm not sure why the chat isn't showing up on screen either. Um, Forgive me, I'm eating too. I'm kind of hungry. Um, I love cheese, Tiago. Cheese is like the best thing ever. My twin sister used to be a cheesemonger, and so she knows a lot about cheese, and she used to bring home all these amazing cheeses. Okay, so yeah, Alan, I'll look that up. Okay, so Alan sent us something in Discord. I think will be important for us to look at. Um, um, oh, and then we should watch. Oh, Mass Hysteria, that's good too. Okay, I'm gonna pull this up here, Alan. So, Alan, this is so Alan sent us this. Let me see if I can get it to actually pull up here the way I want it to. There we go. So apparently, the University of Michigan consumer sentiment among ages 18 to 34. You know, I better pull it up the page, actually the screen, so you all can see it. Okay. Um, right, Macy. Well, she did. She did used to be. Oh, I love it. I love it, Victoria. I love tea so much. Okay. Um, this is a post from Twitter here from Joe Weisenthal. Never looked at this chart before. University of Michigan consumer sentiment among ages 18 to 34 versus overall consumer sentiment. When it's green, it means younger people are more optimistic than the general public. In 30 years, we've never seen this sustained relative gloominess amongst the young. Yep. Look down here. You can see the red, the red, the red. And remember what I was saying, folks, fascism thrives in an environment where people have lost faith in their institutions. And what we're seeing here is massive decrease in faith in institutions. Okay. Um, uh, yeah. Yes. Both genders, absolutely. And you can see, we can barely see it because my face is in the way. I'll move my face so you can see it. Move it over here. You can see the red down over here. Okay. So we again have a lot of distrust. Me too, Kimberly. I wish we could find one. Maybe we can find one at some point. But so that is mistrust in the world. Okay, mistrust in faith in the direction the country is going. It's very bad. Very, very bad. Um, and that is very reflective of the state our society is currently in. Uh, I'm curious if it would be the same in places like the UK. Uh, oh, I need to move this to the correct location. There we go. All right. Okay. Um, the problem is, why should we have exactly, Tiago? They haven't given us anything to be faithful about, to be honest with you, and that's the issue. We need major reforms so that people can actually have faith in their institutions. But alas, um, tiny dip in 2011. That's a good question. I don't know. I'm not sure what happened. That might be because of the economic downturn, but that was that. There's a dip over here. I'm not sure what happened in 2011. Um, by the way, for Victoria and for other folks in chat, Bolsonaro was sentenced to what, 20 some years in prison. Bravo, bravo. We need. I wish we held our politicians accountable the same way the Brazilian folks do. Bravo. Yeah. Okay, so it's interesting. Thank you, Alan, for showing us that. There's a big gap until 2000. Yeah, so like right around here, you can see. Look, it's lower around here, right? Uh, around this also happened when Trump was elected, right? Around 2016, there's suddenly a big drop, and it continues dropping. Yeah, 27 years. 2000. Oh, you're right. Thank you, Malzord. 2001 was Occupy Wall Street. That makes a lot more sense now. That makes a lot more sense. And you can also see it's a bit lower around the time where these financial crisis took place. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, the Trump drop is wild, isn't it? Very wild. Alyssa asks, maybe some of the Brazilians in chat here could maybe help me out with this. I suspect, Alyssa, so Alyssa asks, what do you think Rubio meant by the U.S. will respond accordingly to the witch hunt of Bolso? We might be putting more tariffs on Brazil. Trump, of course, projecting here. He likes anyone that's corrupt and criminal like he is. Um, I suspect there might be some more tariffs put on Brazil. But Lola is a badass. Lula. I'm still gonna like Lola. Okay, is badass. So I expect he'll be like, I don't care. But we'll see. I suspect there'll probably be some trade punishments to Brazil. Um, but good for Brazil. They know how to handle criminal politicians. Put it that way for the most part. Okay, in this case they do. Okay. All right. I can see that there's a lot of Portuguese celebration going on in the chat. You're right, Alan. So this is why I think the shift towards Trump in the recent election wasn't necessarily in support of him, but rather desperation, right? Right? Because he was presenting himself as um they uh they're presenting themselves as he was presenting himself as as an anti-establishment figure, which is what people want. And again, that's classic polarization, and that's how fascists draw support during times of crisis. They present themselves as being the ones who will change things and being the anti-establishment. Um, okay. Okay. So, okay. So let me, uh, let's do something here, as opposed to me just sitting here. All right. So, let's do this. There are some things I can react to in Discord, so I'll do that. Let me pull up, let me pull something up here from Discord. One new mention. Ooh, someone have something they want to say here? Okay, chat. So who gave me a mention here? Okay, it's reactions. Let me go to the reactions. I'm going to see what we have to react to here, folks. I did see a video I wanted to react to. We will do that. That's from Alyssa. You know what? We might watch that actually. I think that's great. We might watch Alyssa's video. There's a lot of good ones here. Okay, we'll do that. And we'll do Alyssa's because this is right in line with what we were talking about. So this is Andrew Callahan. Oh, okay. We'll do that next. I just got your message there, Tiago. Oh, I see. I see what you're saying. Okay, I will. We'll do that next. Okay, so let's. 43 minutes. You know what? Forgive me, Alyssa. I'm going to pause that. I'm going to do Tiago's first, just because this one is 43 minutes. This is actually perfect because we were talking about mass hysteria. All right, so we'll watch this first, and then I'll get back to Alyssa. Alyssa, yeah, pretty traumatizing for that to happen to that guy. But we will watch it. Is it Meowzord? Meowzord, let's watch this first, and then I think we'll watch yours next, Meowzord, and then Alyssa, we'll watch yours a different time, just for the sake of time. Forgive me, but I will get back to yours, Alyssa, and then we'll watch Meowzord's Not So Erudite. Did you uploaded it, Meowzord? I'm guessing. I'll take a look at that. Okay, so let's watch this really fast. This is about mass hysteria, which we just talked about. And then I will watch Alyssa's perhaps next time because it is longer. All right, so here we go. This is I love Salmonella Academy. This is about mass hysteria. Okay. Thank you, Meowzord.
Hey kids, if you've ever been Black Friday shopping or visited the Diablo subreddit recently, chances are you've encountered mass hysteria at some point. Mass hysteria is known medically as mass psychogenic illness, or MPI for short. It's basically just when a bunch of people start acting a fool for no discernible reason other than maybe a stressful environment. Being that this sort of thing is naturally very noticeable, there's loads of documented cases found all throughout history. Let's take a look at a few. This first one is what made me make this video in the first place. So one day sometime in the Middle Ages, a group of nuns in a French convent were enjoying a quiet, uneventful day, until one of them decided to start meowing. You know, like a cat. You'd think this would last all of 4 seconds before another nun was like, "Excuse me, Sister Gertrude, would you kindly cut the shit?" But instead, another nun joined in, and another, until basically the entire nunnery was exchanging mouths like a group of communist trading card enthusiasts. This wasn't just a one-time thing either, it basically became integrated into their way of life. It's said that on a given day, they would stand there meowing in each other's faces for hours at a time. Could you imagine being the first outsider to witness this? You might laugh now, but as they say, everybody gangsta till the nuns start meowing. I'd void my bowels and move to Malaysia without even thinking. Miles more terrifying than this pile of garbage. As you can imagine though, after a while it stopped being scary and just got annoying, leading to the neighbors calling in a band of soldiers to deal with the situation. Hey guys, can we talk to you for a sec about yeah, that. All due respect, but we have orders to.
Don't they look like a Dark Souls boss right here? Like they like one of those crowd bosses, like that one, like we have to fight all like the monk type people in the room. Okay, for those who know what I'm talking about, and I mean, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I probably sound crazy. But right now, this looks like a boss from Dark Souls.
To literally beat the hell out of you with whips till you start acting like people again. Sorry, sir. It's just force of habit. Haha, habit. Seriously though, we would rather go to hell for throttling a gaggle of nuns than put up with another minute of your bullshit, caprese. Our next event took place in the parish of Fatima, Portugal in the year 1917. It all started with three shepherd children, ages 10, 9, and 7 respectively. They were like, "Greetings, fellow Portugueseites. We've been seeing visions of the Virgin Mary, and she told us to tell you that some real crazy shit's gonna go down in the sky on October 13th. Now, if three random farm children started spouting out prophecies to the public today, you'd say, ha, what tomfoolery. Go play in some dirt, you dirty little dirt baby. But keep in mind, the past is a different country.
Oh, yeah.
And Portugal's a different country. So that's like different country squared you gotta think about. Plus, this was during World War I, a time where a lot of people were holding out for a miracle to begin with. So the kid's story was...
I apologize, but yeah, folks, I am addicted to Souls, like the Soulsborne things. Really, Alyssa? Yeah, I love the Dark Souls series. I love Elden Ring. I also love God, I can't think right now. Bloodborne, love it. Those are some of my favorite games. I'll play them on stream sometime. Okay.
Was actually picked up and even spread by local newspapers, to the point where, when the day finally came, at least 30,000 people gathered in Fatima to witness the alleged miracle. Lo and behold, on that day, the sun began zooming around, careening towards Earth and sending rays of multicolored light cascading across the sky, creating a light show like nobody's ever seen.
Also love BG3, Luke.
Keep in mind, this happened in the 20th century, way after the era where belief in...
Hey, sorry folks, I know, but I'm in a video game chat, I apologize. Tiago, I have played Wolfenstein, and I take a great deal of pleasure out of that game.
Divine jiggery and or pokery was considered mandatory, so naturally there were plenty of skeptics and non-believers present, and even they saw it all happen. Or so they thought. How do we know the sun didn't really whiz around haphazardly that day, Well, number one, use your frickin' brain. And number two, accounts differed wildly from person to person. While some say the sun zigged hither, others say it zagged thither, and others still said it shined a brilliant yellow and stayed perfectly still. As such, it was eventually concluded that the event was just a combination of MPI and weird eye stuff from too much sun staring. Although I'd like to believe it was real, just that Jesus' illusion skill was way higher than his alteration at the time. Yep, that's it. Sam's going to hell. Why, for blasphemy? Trust me, that was the least offensive part of that joke. Our next tale took place in 1962 in Tanganyika, which was basically just the beta version of Tanzania. The nation had just declared its independence from Britain the previous year, and with the future so uncertain, tensions were naturally running high around this time. One little girl in a Tanganyikan school ended up handling the stress in a bit of an unusual way. Rather than overeating or staring at her ceiling for hours like a normal person, she just started laughing. And laughing, and laughing. Pretty soon, her classmates at the all-girls school she attended began to join in, to the point where 95 of the 159 students caught the gigglies, which lasted anywhere from a few hours to 16 days straight. Beyond just the unprovoked cackling, other odd behavior included aimless running and occasional violence.
So if I had not lost my job and this happened, okay, that would have been the day I quit teaching, okay? I'd be like, okay, bye everyone, I'm gone. Like, if all my students just started laughing hysterically and it wasn't stopping, I would just be like, okay, you know what? I've reached my limit. Bye.
The problem got so severe that the school was forced to close down temporarily, leading to the chortlers roaming the streets, spreading the affliction further. Thousands of people from all strata came to be affected, with 13 additional schools being shut down in the progress. Over the course of the hysteria, several other symptoms began to present themselves as well, ranging from obvious ones such as breathing problems, fainting, random screaming, to more anomalous things like rashes. Despite all this, no physical cause could be found, leaving MPI as the only explanation. The epidemic finally died down after between 6 and 18 months of day in, day out laughter, depending on the village. While this whole thing likely sucked for most people involved, it probably could have been worse. A lot of the time when I'm alone, I'll think to myself, man, if I ever go full schizo, I hope I'm one of the laughy ones, not one of the scream.
Right, Macy, maybe someone accidentally caught some cannabis on fire and it spread across the village.
Me ones. With this story in mind, just maybe, if I put my mind to it and believe hard enough, I can be both. Flashback to the year 1518 to the city of Strasbourg, at the time part of the HRE. A woman named Mrs. Trophy began fervently dancing in the streets for no discernible reason for hours, then days. All without music, of course. Her only breaks consisted of occasional food intake and passing out from exhaustion when night came. If you saw that today, you'd just be like, ha! Drugs. But apparently people found it pretty inspiring because within a week, 34 others had joined in, and after a month, there were around 400. This wasn't your casual bobbing up and down neither. This shit made Zumba look like Tai Chi. Here's the best modern day simulation I could find.
Oh my god.
Now imagine that both of those people were the same person and you got the dancing plate.
Tiago.
This would take a toll on any healthy person, let alone a medieval city dweller. But despite bleeding feet and aching bones, they just kept going. In fact, they went so hard for so long that a good portion straight up fucking died from cardiac arrest.
Remember,
it got to
folks,
the point where
I love Salmonella, but remember how I said that the documents that say that they died or were written after, like years after the event, like between 5 and 7 years, some were maybe like 3 years. So we're not even sure if they did die, right? But that is because there was also plague going around at the time. So maybe some of the people that died were just had the plague, like the actual plague.
Around 15 dancers were kicking the bucket every day before the city decided they had to do something about it. They managed to rule out any divine or supernatural causes, which was necessary just because, you know, back in medieval times, it was fucking stupid. They eventually surmised that it was a natural disease caused by too much hot blood, as per that whole four humors thing that was popular at the time. As for a cure, their prescription was, get this, more dancing. I can see where they were coming from. It's pretty sound logic. If you got a song stuck in your head, you play it till you're sick of it, same kind of thing. But here's where they goofed. The authorities actually went out of their way to facilitate the dancing, setting up a big stage area and even hiring musicians to keep the afflicted moving. All this achieved was attracting more passerby who were like, man, mass psychogenic illness looks frickin' epic, let's get in on that, causing the contagion to become even more widespread. Seeing that their solution backfired, the city then went the other way and completely banned any public dancing. Those who still showed signs of the mania were subsequently carted off to the Shrine of St. Vitus, where an exorcism-like ritual was performed on them. This ended up being highly effective, presumably for no other reason than that the dancers believed it would work, and after nearly 2 months, the plague was quelled. While this whole thing was most likely a case of good old-fashioned MPI, some historians believe it might have been egged on in part by ergotism, a state of psychosis brought on by eating tainted bread, which I talked a little bit about in this video. Ding. And hey, while I'm shilling for my channel, I might as well give a shout out to another as well. Today's video was sponsored by
I'll look into that.
Cheddar, a network...
Is this the end of it? Loved it. That was really good. Thank you, Tiago. Okay, we'll watch the other one here real fast. Okay, I will look at it real fast. Alan, give me a second here. I'm going to pull up that other video. Thank you. Excellent. Okay, we'll watch this one next. So this is a video about the Charlie Kirk assassination.
Went solo and built my own online knife empire.
It's September 10th, 2025. Minutes ago, Charlie Kirk succumbed to an assassination that happened in Utah at a school that he was speaking at for his TPU event. Obviously, most important to say, this is bad. Anybody celebrating this right now, condoning it, reveling in it, saying he deserved it, you are part of the problem. They can no longer be part of the left. There is no hope.
So guys, so forgive me, but Alan sent this to me. I really respect David Schuster. So I am going to share it with you. Remember, this is unconfirmed, all right? And I just want to remind everyone that I think I said previously this morning that that there were a lot of right wingers who really hated Charlie Kirk. Okay, especially a lot of followers of Nick Fuentes, the Nazi. Okay, and this is David Schuster, who's a really good reporter. This is unconfirmed. Again, this is unconirmed. But it's just something to, and I know you asked me not to share it, Alan, because it is unconfirmed, but just throw this out here, folks. And again, we don't know. Again, I guys want to emphasize that. This is what David Schuster says. According to Utah officials and police interviews with his family, Tyler Robinson hated Charlie Kirk because Kirk wasn't conservative enough. Robinson reportedly admired Nick Fuentes, the Nazi. Okay. GOP is now scrubbing X posts about Dems faster than DOJ erases Trump name in Epstein files. So this is one person's claimed. This is what David Schuster is saying. This is not confirmed. but it's very interesting because it would totally make sense to me. There was a lot of Nick Fuentes groypers out there who hated Charlie Kirk. It actually was the pipeline that got a lot of people into um, into the groyper sphere. Okay, the Nazi groyper sphere. So this is very interesting. Just something to consider. We need verification, but yeah. Okay. Let's continue.
Hope of redemption for this country if we do not stop the radicalization. At first, this man was arrested and reported as being the suspect. In it, he is heard saying,
yes, he did, Alyssa.
In the video, you can hear him saying, I have the right to remain silent. For a while, it was reported upon that the suspect was in custody and this video had come out. So everyone presumed that this was the man who did the shooting. It has since then been confirmed that the suspect is not in custody. This man in the video is not the suspect. Can't say that enough. So when you see this man being cited, that is why. It's because he was originally suspected as being the suspect. When the confirmed sources said that there was a suspect in hand, there is no suspect in hand. We don't know where the suspect is at the time. We do not know who committed the shooting. People saying, this is awesome, Charlie got what he deserved, he was a genocide supporter, are the exact same level of violence inciters as people now saying that this is war. All of this needs to be condemned.
Yep.
All of this only fans the flame of greater hatred and greater violence. It has to stop. Charlie Kirk, for everything that I disagreed with him about, which was almost everything, was exercising his free speech. I participated in events in free speech against him, talking about, dialoguing with, and engaging with supporters and conservatives because dialogue has to be the way forward. Initially, he was reported as being stable by friends and family. However, those close to him, unconfirmed sources, began posting that he had passed away. At 4:40 p.m. today, September 10th, Trump reported that he had passed away. Minutes later, both CNN and CBS verified this confirmation, that he has passed away. Look at the reaction on the right already. Begging for fascism. Begging for fascism. Begging that we go to war.
Mm-hmm.
As somebody on the left, I am happy to vehemently denounce this. The moment that I found out about this event, strong condemnation for the shooter, strong support for Charlie, strong wishes that he survives, and insisting that he was utilizing his free speech as much as I disagree with this free speech. If you are on the right and you are inciting war, you are suggesting further lockdowns, further punishing of opposing views, you are the same as the people celebrating Charlie Kirk. You are all inciting hatred and promoting violence in this country. It has to stop. Every one of you fools think that the paradigm of good times make for weak men make for bad times, which we are in, and that bad times make for strong men. Strong men aren't violent, they're principled. Now, more than ever, the principled position is to stand by what Charlie Kirk believed in.
Again, folks, the tweet I just showed you is unconfirmed. Don't take it too seriously yet, but I do highly respect David Schuster. He's a really good journalist. Yeah, I know, Tiago. I saw the video too. I really wish I didn't see it. Robert, that is a very fair point. Robert says, I don't think I agree. Hate speech should not be free speech. This is a question that you all know I waffle on. I don't fully know the answer to it, but that is a perfectly acceptable opinion to have, Robert, obviously. Alan says, yesterday, Nick also disavowed any members of his audience that want to arm themselves all of a sudden. He knows it was his audience. That's very possible, Alan. He's been Nick Fuentes is one of his biggest targets was Charlie Kirk. Yeah, that's fair, Macy. Again, this is a topic I don't have a firm opinion on, so okay.
Free speech. All TBU was about free speech. That's the point of these things. And it was effective. The reason the left didn't like him, his opinions aside, and worried about him, is because he was so effective at using free speech to convince young voters to the right. He didn't do it through violence. He did it through free speech. Now, you might argue he did it also through misinfo. And free speech would include that. And yes, there are issues with free speech that we still have to wrestle through. But if you think that violence is the appropriate answer, you are delusional. You have no idea what you're talking about, or you're so full of rage and hatred that you're better off.
So, folks, I gotta be honest with you. So my thought here, okay, historically, violence has been used effectively in some ways, but if it's used, it better be tactical, right? And especially the assassination like this is only bad, okay? I told you all the things that could come from this, all the backlash. Again, I'm not promoting violence. I'm just saying, yeah.
Going out to the farm, petting some animals, and getting therapy. Get off the internet. I knew people that were on the ground. I knew people that were right front stage. The moment it happened,
right, Tiago?
I got a text saying, I just saw Charlie Kirk shot in the neck. Now, I will say I cannot show you guys the video, but it was an arterial bleed. Most people who've seen the video, the graphic video of him being shot, did not believe that he would make it. Now, it's possible, obviously, with combat medics and quick response that some people do survive arterial bleeds. He didn't. And what every single pundit is going to do is try to demand for radicalism. And I want to be really clear, for every group blaming only one side, you are part of the problem. Political division, first of all, is massively being seeded by non-humans, by bots, because democracy dies in the face of misinformation.
I think she's, so, okay, I appreciate what she's saying here. I think she is, yeah, so I do like a lot of her message here. Okay, yes, the violence that happened 2 days ago was very bad. Okay, tactically it was bad. It will cause lots of issues. But at the same time, claiming that both sides here are equally responsible for stoking hatred and things like that is sort of missing the point. Again, but. Yeah, it's missing a lot of context, but okay, I'll give her a chance.
Which is a huge problem that has disproportionately affected the right. And the problem with the left is there has been no willing to bridge, to soften, or to work with anyone who is bipartisan and reasonable because of purity politicking. We have driven ourselves into a state where division is the necessary conclusion. But if you're sitting here saying the left is so violent,
see again, I like a lot what she's saying, but to say that. We have driven ourselves into hate, okay? That the left and right have driven each other into hate is missing the socioeconomic and political reasons why there's such a massive divide in this country, which I've talked about, right? It's the politicians' fault. It is not the populace's fault, okay? Polarization happens naturally when the politicians do not provide things that make people have faith in their democracy, okay? So this... I think she is somewhat blaming, and I'm not saying the right wing. I mean, all Americans are sort of victims of this. Okay.
Trump just the other day announced war on Chicago. Trump just the other day released Secretary of War. NATO, as of right now, is meeting in Poland because of Article 4 of the NATO allegiance because of the drone strikes that are threatening European borders. Don't kid yourself.
Vibration can crystallize matter into forms like a spinal column, complete with movement.
Don't kid yourself that it's just the others. Every single person has to look at themselves and go, what am I doing? I have to. I have to look at myself and go, what am I doing? Guess who's saying this is war? It's the right. You are just at fault for this, if not more right now. If this event turns into further violence, the right is now at fault for the further violence. We shouldn't be calling for war. Anyone with an ounce of principles should be denouncing this, but there's 40,000 likes.
Talk to me about the environment in which a shooting like this happens.
Yeah, and again, to emphasize what you just emphasized, we don't know any of the full details of this. That we don't know if this was a supporter shooting their gun off in celebration, or so we have no idea about this. But following up on what was just said, he's been one of the most divisive, especially divisive younger figures in this, who is constantly sort of pushing this sort of hate speech or sort of aimed at certain groups. And I always go back to hateful thoughts lead to hateful words, which then lead to hateful actions. And I think that's the environment we're in, that people just, you can't stop with these sort of awful thoughts you have and then saying these awful words and not expect awful actions to take place.
Matt.
And that's the unfortunate environment we're in.
And the worst part is that right now, we don't even know who the suspect is. It's just being blamed on the left. And to be clear, I'm aware it probably is left.
I see. So this is
it could be a Groyper. The Groypers were known for actually harassing TPUSA. In fact, when I was at TPU events and Groypers approached, security was constantly following them and pressuring them to leave. Anybody on the right knows that TPU and the Groypers did not have a good relationship. They don't like each other. But also the far...
Just a reminder, folks, when you have guns everywhere, easy access to firearms, if you mix that with a society that is massively polarized, okay, shit will happen. Okay, there people will get guns and use them in violent ways. Yeah.
Left has been engaging in a lot of violence as well. Because that's what you guys are begging for. It really is. And the worst part is there isn't going to be space for the conversation about the type of dialogue that is necessary for building hatred, which,
I must have had the wrong button on.
Most of us have participated in, including Charlie Kirk. That doesn't mean that Charlie Kirk deserves to be killed. But everyone's just going to point to each other and talk about how the other side's more evil. And nobody is going to look at the fact that we are all doing this to each other to different degrees. Some worse than others. Some worse than others. Like I said, I disagree with every single thing Charlie Kirk said. But if there is no space, if this event itself cannot bring about bipartisan work, you've missed the point. You've missed the point. And principles have died. Your principles have died. The right is right now galvanizing its side to attack the left. If you have any scruples or principles, you should push against that. Anybody who is on the left should be denouncing anybody celebrating it. And anybody on the right should be vehemently denouncing the encouragement of radicalization, the promotion of hatred of the left.
Okay, admittedly, she's kind of growing on me, right? I mean, as in, like, she is saying that, like, yeah, the right also needs to denounce the people that are encouraging on their side, because boy, are they, okay? They feel like an
inflaming of civil war. Libs of TikTok. This is war.
I got you, Valley.
Sure are trying to incite it.
Yeah, Linux lover, he has been caught. It has not been confirmed yet whether he's right-wing or left-wing. We just looked at a tweet that seems to indicate that he may have been right-wing, but again, it's unconfirmed. But yes, he's been caught. This video, I think, was from yesterday.
Is this hate speech at this point? Should this be chargeable? Are you inciting violence? Because I think that you are. But I understand that there is no sentiment for what I'm saying. There is no will for moderation. There is no will for bipartisanship. The right has, under Trump, I don't even care about Epstein anymore. Principles have been gone. And the left can't even coordinate its shit enough to have a cohesive identity. We're fractured. It's so frustrating because in many ways we are all complicit in this.
Hey, Alt Diego Brando.
And because of that, in many ways, no one is. If social media environment incites this type of engagement that is necessarily inflaming both sides at all times, and even my participation, you could argue that me criticizing the farthest left is inflaming this, is making them more angry because they're not being heard. You could say that me pointing out that Trump is trying to pass unironic anti-democracy policy is inflaming the left and encouraging war. And the issue is,
I got to pause this because Valley asked an excellent question, okay? I was curious of your opinion. How do we effectively argue with people who seem to be in a different reality and will just deny facts? So I got to be honest with you, Valley, that Vale, not Valley, I apologize. I am not of the opinion that arguing would work. One of the issues with fascist ideology, far right-wing ideology, is that it kind of runs on the principle of die Welt ist meine Vorstellung, which is a German phrase that means the world is however I view it to be. It is a irrationalist worldview that centers emotion and how people want to view the world. And plus, it's kind of like a cult. The way to get people on the right to think differently is to change their material conditions, all right? To literally give them things like healthcare, kind of bribe them. That's the way you could put it. Give them a society that makes them feel like they are doing well, change their material reality. So the arguing, it is almost impossible to argue with someone. Now, you can do it. I've done it, but it's not easy, and we're not going to convince a mass number of people through argument. We need to actually change things. Correct, Meowsword, that is a fair point, okay? You can also, that's actually a really good point, Meowsword. You can also use peer pressure to try and get, because when like in a cult type situation, if you can get loved ones around someone to sort of create an environment around them where they're not around that and things like that, it can also be helpful. But that's a very hard process. The easiest way to do this is to make massive changes, provide for the material needs of those folks, okay? Okay. You're right, Trump failed. My concern, Trump failed, and I've said this before on stream, so let's talk about a theoretical society here. Violence, let me explain something. So violence, whether it be revolutionary violence or civil war or anything like that, almost always results in mass death, destruction, and the most exposed people in a society are the ones who end up suffering the most from that. Okay. You think about how many guns are in this country. If things go to hell, okay, Can you imagine what, for example, all the white supremacists will do with those guns now that they have free reign to do what they want with them? What all those homophobes will do? All those anti-trans people? Many innocent people would get harmed. I do not see, and I've talked about this on stream before, in a theoretical society, okay, violence, yes, historically, there have been incidents where violence has been used to make historical change. That being said, there have to be, I can't say it on stream, but there have to be many factors in place before it is used effectively, and we are not there. So I do understand the sentiment. I'm all about fighting fascism. You know this. But a single act of violence does not change things. And historically, it often causes further radicalization and fascist crackdowns. Okay. Now, you all know I'm not defending Charlie Kirk here. I'm talking tactically, strategically. All right. It is not a good tactical strategic move. It might might kind of give us a sense of catharsis, but that's not good. That might make things worse and it won't change things. Yes, Linux lover, and it worked, right? That was, but that is a different kind. Again, I can't really talk about this on stream, right? That is a different kind of thing than what we're seeing happen with this, right? Okay. So again, yeah, I can't, folks, I can't talk about this much on stream. Sir Bartholomew, you're partially right. But as you know about John Brown, Sir Bartholomew, John Brown was organized, okay, planned beforehand, and a bunch of other things. He's still lost, by the way. But again, Sir Bartholomew, okay, so just something to be aware of. Right, Meowzord, right. That's a fair point, Meowzord. And we also have to notice, folks, the kind of violence that was done in Nepal was mass. Okay, I don't want to really get into this. The point here, folks, is certain kinds of violence, right, are very detrimental to a situation. All right. Okay. Okay, Valley. Vale. I won't say that out loud, but I hope people will see that message you just sent. Because I think I've talked, maybe sometime on stream before, I'll talk about the traits of successful historical revolutions. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. And Alyssa, and folks, I want to be clear here. You all know I'm not defending Charlie Kirk. I am not bashing people who are not sad about seeing Charlie Kirk pass. I am trying to talk here purely from a strategic point of view, a tactical point of view. Yeah, right. Okay. We'll continue now.
Does that mean that there's no way that we can talk about it? And the answer has to be, there is a way. There is a way. There has to be a way that we talk about it. But if violence is a thread or hook attached to the way in which you must talk about it,
Vale,
I would say to you, you're erring.
That was not. I just didn't want to say it just to be cautious.
Strong men are principled, not violent. Remember, humanity at its most evil typically has engaged in groupthink and tribalism. Humanity at its greatest has engaged in group cohesion and participation. If this type of event doesn't make you concerned about radicalization, if this type of event makes you laugh and shrug.
Last thing here, Trump failed. I want to point out that I do partially agree with you here. Trump failed says, as I have read and seen throughout history, sometimes there is no stopping. Trump's failed. I am not saying that it may not be inevitable, what you're referring to, okay? But there needs to be other stuff that happens first for it ever to be a successful way of doing it. Okay, if that makes sense. All right.
Or assume that you just have to become more radicalized now. You're doing exactly what the Russian bots want. You're doing exactly what the radicals want.
Sir Bartholomew, that's
for those of you uninformed moderates,
we can have
which
a different
is most
opinion
of you,
on this, all right?
Radicals are agitative and accelerationist. Both the radical tankies
I'm a little nervous because I have no clue what's about to happen, but this could either be a total disaster.
And the Goipers. And
I will recommend, folks, yesterday I did a stream where I talked about some of the historical precedents to the kind of violence we saw with Charlie Kirk, and it almost always ends badly. It tends to make things worse. Again, I don't want to talk too much about this on stream, but just something to think about. I'm not saying that historically there haven't been violence has not been used effectively in different circumstances, but there are also times in history it has been used ineffectively and actually made things worse. Okay.
Concerningly, it seems like MAGA want to accelerate the destruction of democracy.
Okay, Tiago.
And they do that by sowing disunity. If you allow this to radicalize you, if you don't take this as impetus to cool hatred now, you are doing what every human group in the past that was in endless war failed to do. You are that fool. You've learned nothing from history. You've learned nothing from our principles. You've learned nothing from Jesus. You are failing on every principle we have in the American dream of what we're built on: Roman law, Greek philosophy, and Christian morality. You are failing all three of these things. If you think that war, hatred,
thank you, Tiago.
Tribalism is the way to go forward. Our country, our visions of beauty, our narratives, our stories are about forgiveness. They're about overcoming great evils. They are about finding a way to forgive. Because empathy and forgiveness and principles and believing in peace and fighting.
Again, so I get some of what she's saying here, folks. I am not someone, maybe this makes me a bad person, I don't know. I am not someone who's about forgiveness, okay? I'm about justice. I wish we could have justice, okay? Like, forgiving, it can be bad, okay? I'm just saying, justice is more necessary, in my opinion, than forgiveness.
For peace. That's hard. It's really easy when nothing bad is going on, and it's really fucking hard when you actually have to do it. Forgiveness isn't forgiveness if it isn't quite difficult, because then there's nothing really to forgive. Grace isn't grace if it's just easy to give. It's probably just enabling. Mercy isn't mercy if you don't even have to deliberate about it, if you don't have to fight your own human impulses to give it. It's like we've forgotten that principles were supposed to be hard, that your cross is daily. I'm seeing so many Christians right now posting about war, about killing the left. Shame on you. Shame on you. And shame on the people who killed Charlie Kirk. Shame on the people celebrating it, but shame on you for doing the exact same thing. You never had principles. You never stood for anything. You just wanted a soapbox bigger than the other guy.
Tiago, I do partially disagree with you there. Tiago says justice and forgiving are two different things, and we don't need to choose between them. That is fair, Tiago, though oftentimes, the forgiveness trumps, I shouldn't use that word there, trumps justice, okay? Especially when it's used in the context she's speaking about. It seems like saying like we just need to forgive, we need to get over it, we need to forgive. I am not for that, especially when it comes to some of the horrific actions. Like if I had my way, there'd be a lot of government officials right now in prison, okay, and a lot of right wingers in prison. But I know, okay, that's just my thought. Just forgiving. For example, we had a president, President, who was it? Carter, who pardoned Nixon. Okay, or not Carter. Ford pardoned Nixon. And like I just don't believe in that. Like the forgiveness. I got you, Tiago. Okay.
You hated the left for cancel culture, for moralizing. You're the same. You're the exact same. If we don't find a way to actually find
Trump failed. Trump failed. I totally understand what you're saying. Trump failed. Let me be clear. I do not condone violence, but I am not afraid of it. Even Superman can't save everyone. No, you're right. You're right. Trump failed, but there are ways to. I'm sure you can understand Trump failed. I can't really talk about this on stream, but I would hope you could join us in the Discord because I would love to talk about this more with you. By the way, folks, if you want to join the Discord, there is a link at the top of the page. We could talk about this, but we'd probably have to do it via voice, okay? But anyway, okay.
Virtue again? To be noble? To strive for making the right choice? then what are we fighting for? Just to win? That's not what great countries, that's not what the Western democracy, that's not what the American project is built on. Not the visions of it, not the dreams of it. You might say, well, the American project's been full of bad things. Yeah, of course. A great man in my life once said, it's going to take a whole lot of blood, sweat, and shit to fix things, and none of you have the stomach for it.
You're right. Sorry, Trump failed. You are, I'm loving this conversation with you. All right. Okay, I agree, casual revolt. However, justice is hard. I know, Alan, I know. I will not. Okay, I'm actually probably going to just, okay. Violence, so I agree, casual revolt. However, justice is hard to achieve whenever the people in charge of justice don't believe in it. You're right. Okay, you're right. I agree with you, and I'm going to stop talking about it there for a number of reasons. Alan, thank you for saying so. Okay. Okay. I think you know where I'm going with this, okay?
You've all looked at the left, their colorful hair, and their whining about pronouns, and you've scoffed at their privilege. And yet you sit fat, obese on your couch.
I got you,
refusing vaccines, which have saved millions of lives, laughing at the idea of polio. Because you forgot. You forgot all of the human suffering and striving and fighting that brought us here. You forgot what it meant to fight for something, for virtue, to be the hero. You forgot why Captain America mattered. You forgot. And it's showing. You're just as much a snowflake and privileged little kid.
Okay,
because the moment it's hard for you and you get a big soapbox, you're pointing down at everyone else and you're locking up your enemies and you are inciting violence against those who oppose you and you want to cancel them, you want to defund PBS, you want to go after lawyers who went after you. That's no virtue, that's vengeance. You're the villain in the story. In every childhood story that we know of, the hero goes against the villain and the villain is bad because he's angry and he wants vengeance.
Yeah, I'm not agreeing with her. Okay, let's put it that way.
And he wants to see the world burn, and that's you. You're not the hero in the story. You're the NPC or you're the antagonist. Until you can look in. Actually look in the mirror. Like David Calkins says, look in the mirror, look at your own fat ass, your stupid face, and go, this is where I'm flawed. I know where I'm flawed. I'm angry. I've been so angry. So incredibly angry.
Yeah, me too.
That I've been unfair to the far left at times. I've been quick to unkindness. I've been hesitant to forgive. I understand.
This almost sounds like a Christian thing. Okay.
And I apologize. I know this sounds like I'm just standing on an even bigger soapbox. I apologize. I am not pretending here like I am some saint. I am begging you to, alongside with me, try to dig for the principles and virtues that we all said we.
No, Meowzord, it's okay. I'm enjoying seeing this perspective. So don't. I'm not criticizing you, Meowzord. It's okay if you like it and things like that.
Cared about for the pursuit of happiness, for the movies you loved the most that made your skin fill with goosebumps at the idea of dreams and hope and promise. I am begging you to look for that part of you, and to call it up now. Because if we don't, we're in for a world of hurt. And I don't want that world. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to be perfect in the future. I do my best, but we have to be better than this. I have pushed the left so hard, and I vehemently condemn the shooting against Charlie Kirk. But watching the right reaction of inciting
you're right,
war,
Tiago. And Meowzord, please, I do love different perspectives. This is not, okay, I'm glad that you sent this.
Suggesting
it's allowing us to talk about some really serious issues.
Locking up the left?
There's a sense of humor aspect to it, too. It became impossible for me to work in a university. And so I thought, fine.
I will say,
you're the villain you always feared the left would become.
She is speaking from her heart.
You've stared into the abyss so long that you've been subsumed by it. This isn't the way. A lot of you who watch my channel are conservative. You find me as like the one sane liberal. I'm imploring you now. Your disgust towards the left for the purity and the moralizing and just the downright can't hang uncool kind of stick up our ass energy. I've always said that's kind of fair. Now it's your time to prove your principles. And if you don't, you were the same as the side you hated. Just of different colors. Red instead of blue. But it doesn't matter. Same monster.
Strategic pause.
Peace be with you.
Oh,
Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk. To the family of Kirk, to my friend who was right there talking to him when this happened. I'm sorry. To his children, I'm sorry.
Meowzord, I will. So Meowzord, please, again, you know I love you, Meowzord. I'm just saying, okay. Meowzord says, I thought it was pretty based compared to. No, you're right, Meowzord. I will say that she was speaking from the heart there. You could tell she believes what she's saying. And I think voices like that are important. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. And it's very brave, by the way, for her to do that. I will say that. Okay. Yeah, there has been a lot of other crazy noise, that's for sure. That I do not appreciate, Meowsword. You're right. Like a lot of the crazy noise that we heard in the last few days. Okay. Okay. All right, folks. That was really good, actually. I mean, it was a great video for us to talk about and things like that. So, and I do say, folks, again, from a strategic perspective, I agree with her. I don't, but here's the thing. I agree with her sort of in her conclusion that the use of violence was not in this special case. This case was not effective. Okay, it was bad. But again, how she approaches it and her reasons for it are different than mine. But I'm glad we all could see that. Okay. All right. So, okay, guys, let me go here. Yeah. Okay. Let's see here. All right, folks. So, I've been streaming now for a while, so I'm going to get off now, okay? Because I've been going for over 2 hours. Let me go back to my face. I'm going to go get some dinner stuff. I might come back on later. I might. Let me get my face up here. That was a good end, though. Okay. So it's something else, folks, to think about. Let me just add one last thing here. I am a gay man, okay? I know a lot of folks in chat are in minority groups. I'm also a socialist, so there's another little added thing that makes me a minority, I guess you could say. It can sometimes be hard to listen to folks, like her, when we feel directly threatened, all right? And I understand that. I really do. Okay, that's all I'm telling you is I understand that feeling. I'm not criticizing it or anything. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Vale, you said, I think you can absolutely say it was bad and not an effective use, but I can't stand the judgment. No, I know. Vale, I understand that, right? Like like I said, I'm a gay man here. I can't really say much on live stream here, folks, but you know what I'm saying here, okay? I understand that feeling. Yeah. All right. Yeah, props to her for saying it. Oh, she said that? She compared the right to the pronoun left? Is that really what she said, Alan? The pronoun left? Would you confirm that she said that to me, Alan, if she did? Because that means she doesn't she very much doesn't doesn't know how to conflate. She's conflating two very, 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 very different things. Okay. I got you. Okay. She didn't actually say that. I see what you're saying. Okay, all right. Okay, guys. So she did. Oh my goodness. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty ridiculous. That she would that's very ridiculous. Okay, guys. So please join our Discord. We can talk more about the stuff on there if you're interested, okay? Obviously no Fed posting, okay? No, and please don't encourage violence, don't anything like that, all right? We can talk about history. We can talk about things like that. Just be cautious, okay? Especially now because of what has happened, there might be a greater magnifying glass on what people are talking about and stuff. So just be careful, okay? All right, folks. And on that note, let me do my last little gig here. I think you all know what's coming. I think you all know what is coming. Yeah, she did, Alyssa. Okay. So I think you all know what's coming. And by the way, Meowsword, we love you. Okay, we hope you know that we're not criticizing you, Meowsword, for recommending this. Okay, hey, you can, especially. It was actually kind of nice to hear someone speak in a very a Jesus-like way. Let's put it that way. Well, that sounds like an insult when I say it that way, but you see what I mean. Okay. Okay. So, guys, let's do this last. Okay. Okay. Yeah, exactly, Meowsword. I'm very glad you did. Okay. Thank you, Meowsword, for acknowledging that. Okay. All right. So, guys, let's go. All right. You know what I'm going to say here. First of all, first and foremost, free Palestine. Free Palestine. Second of all, never stop resisting. The easiest way to resist is to think for yourselves. The easiest way to resist is to think for yourselves, and that includes when you watch me. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes. I have to censor myself in some ways. Okay, let's put it that way. Look at what other people are saying. Don't get stuck in an information bubble. The easiest way to resist is to think for yourselves. Thirdly, here, we are living in a fascist moment in this country, not only here, but in many countries around the world. Okay, in many countries from around the world, fascism thrives in an environment where people have lost faith in their democratic institutions. The way to fix this is to give them faith in their democratic institutions, and to do that, we need major reforms in this country. Major reforms in this country. You cannot stand in the center. If you stand in the center, the fascists will walk all over you. You will become a slug. They will smash you beneath their feet. Do not stand in the center. We need major reforms in this country. Okay. Lastly, on the wall behind me is a sword. The name of that sword is Chainbreaker. Chainbreaker has been passed down in my family for many years. Okay. It is rumored to have been responsible for the death of 7 slave owners. Why do I have it back there? I have it back there to remind everyone that our ancestors, not only here but around the world, have made major sacrifices, sometimes even including their lives for some of the things we have today. We cannot let their sacrifice go to waste. Please, please, please do not let their sacrifice go to waste. And always, always, always fight for a better future. And on that note, folks, I may come back on later. I may not. I will see how I'm feeling about it. I will definitely be on tomorrow, though, if I don't come back on later. Have a good night, day, morning, wherever you may be. Bye-bye.